As the race started under caution. Conditions, as Dorsey mentioned earlier, simply too treacherous. There was about a handful of laps done under caution before we went racing for real. Mike Avaniente shortcut the track and filled the front full of dirt. And then a very nervous ride for Dane Cameron. Another nervous ride for Bob McCallion as well in that Ferrari. Not too much damage done there as we skip ahead to the fourth hour. And then one of the front-running Porsches had a bad moment. Jimmy Johnson showed Emmanuel Collard how to go around the high banking and use it to the most effect. It was a common problem. The ground stayed wet for a long time, didn't it?
Yeah, the racetrack was wet too. I mean, humidity was so high, temperature was no wind. That was exiting pit lane.
Big hiccup for Pedro Lamy. The Matt Connolly Pontiac did not enjoy that. And as we went into the nighttime hours, things got very interesting. Particularly at the O2 Ganassi camp, there was an engine done.
There was. We saw Montoya take the lead, and then shortly thereafter he was in the garage area. Their game was over, and it had to really resonate through that whole team. Maybe these BMW cars are going to have problems, but not so. The 01 has soldiered on. There we saw Bert Frizzell have a problem through the chicane. Really tripped up a lot of people today. And then the 88 goes up in flames.
Yeah, John Baker had a scary moment there. The Autometrics 14 Porsche. And then Anthony Lazzaro on fire, and it was over and out. AJ Allmendinger put a nice move on Mad Max Pappas, only to have contact with a GT car several laps later and force him to come into the pits. Then a bizarre accident involving Dion von Moltke and Bryce Miller. Bobby Labonte ran out of fuel, had to get towed back to the paddock to get a top-up.
And that was for the lead. That was the lead car, and suddenly we see action here. Sasha Maassen gets into it. Mike Volkowski, a little bit of retribution a little bit later on, but they both continue.
Hurley Hayward stepped from the 59 only to hand over to David Donahue, and the car, Rafa Martos, and then the tar retired. The big talking point was Justin Wilson coming into pit road, going into the garage. He thought he had a problem. There was nothing. The team could not find anything wrong with the 01. And then the 55 retired in flames as well. Certainly not the only car we've seen that happen to. Can you believe it? It happened to AJ Allmendinger again whilst in a prominent position in the top three. Over and out for car number 6 for Mike Shank Racing. Just heartbreaking stuff. Meanwhile, up front, it's all smooth sailing for the 9 team.
This is your first year with your name at the top of the list as an owner of a car. You've just got to be beside yourself right now and probably still a little bit nervous.
Very, very nervous. You know, this is amazing. I can't even begin to describe it. 24 hours is a long time, but the next 15 minutes are longer.
Now, this being your first time owning a car, seeing the problems that the team has over the course of the race, we've been documenting the clutch problems, the throttle issues. What is that like the first time?
Anxiety at the highest level.
Chip, if you leave here without a Rolex today, without the victory, I know you guys have tried hard and it's far from over. Anything can still happen. But if you leave here without the victory, what do you leave here with looking towards the rest of the season?
Well, you know, with 10 minutes to go, you get a little philosophical at this point, and you know, you're glad you've run all night and all day, and you're glad you're in the mix to be able to win the race. Got a great group of guys, a great group of drivers, great partners and sponsors that help us do all this week in and week out. It's a good start to the season, you know. When we look forward, I guess we'll be second in the points or something. If we can bring it home here, we'll be second in the championship.
This team slipped under the radar. This is huge for them. Can't say enough. Terry Borscheller, you know, he had a tough time. We talked about it at the beginning of the show. He was dropped out of racing, just about lost his ability to get a ride. Now he's back strong.
Let's give a shout out to Joe LaJoy, the engineer, Mike Evans, who calls the strategy, and Gary Pennison, the crew chief of the Action Express 9 squad. And we heard from Bob Johnson, the new team owner. The story there is his son Keith had worked with the Brumos organization for a long time, and as Calvin mentioned, there was a whisper, there was a rumor that they may have been paring back to just a one-car effort. He said, no way. We need to keep these people employed. We need to keep racing with 2 cars. It may no longer be under the Brumos banner, but underneath the skin it really is. And the Action Express team are just seconds, just moments away from victory in the biggest sports car race, kicking the year off here at Daytona International Speedway. On the high banks, the Portuguese driver is bringing it home. Joao Barbosa enters the tri-oval for the final time. This is exciting stuff. The Action Express team on debut go to victory lane at the Rolex 24. It's a very well-liked team, the Speed Source organisation, run by Sylvain Tremblay, his engineer and dear friend David Haskell. Nick Ham farewells this team on a full-time basis as Ryan Hunter-Reay comes across the line for third overall. But it's the young man, the new man in the Speed Source number 70, who's going to bring it to the line. How about this in his young career? Jonathan Bomarito will see the checkered flag at the World Centre of Racing and bring home the Castrol Syntec number 70 second victory in class in 3 years. It went horribly sideways last year, but they're back to victory lane. They win GT and get the start of this season off to the perfect start.